Welcome to Fun and Games Side Quests. Every episode is a different host sharing a video game they love and why they love it.
Hello there, Fun and Games folks. I'm John, the host of the Gaming in the Wild podcast and YouTube channel. I love to cover artistic, creative, weird and wonderful games. To give you a rough ballpark, I love things like Kentucky Route Zero, 1000 Times Resist, Immortality and Inscription. I'm a huge fan of the game Ultros, the psychedelic Metroidvania, and I actually wrote the book about it. The design works Ultros via Lost in Cult is coming out later this year. I love games that have something to say aesthetically and thematically, and especially games that tread the line with broader forms of culture. Thanks very much to Matt for having me on. The game I'm bringing you today certainly does all of the things that I just said. It's an unassuming 2020 indie game that's part conversational deck builder, part cli-fi visual novel, and part dusty road trip choose-your-own-adventure. It has sizzling hand-drawn art and a vibey soundtrack by Steve Pardo that I still throw on today sometimes. It is the wonderful, underappreciated Signs of the Sojourner. This is a game that is set in a post-climate world. You travel a map to collect cards and better converse with the people you meet in a simple symbol-matching card game. If you can match the symbols they're throwing down, the conversations will go well, and you'll get tips, lore, map locations, and other opportunities. If you can't match the symbol, the conversation will take a turn for the worse and become awkward or even hostile. And at the end of every conversation, you get to keep a card, which helps to build your worldly vocabulary, communicate with more people. But you also have to discard one, which has clever repercussions on who you can and can't click with as the game progresses. I think this is a really cool and interesting system. It looks a bit like Uno. You see the conversation partners standing in the place where they are. Cards will appear at the top. You put one down, you try and match. And the card game gives stakes to every conversation you have. As you move around the map, you encounter new dialects, new people. It's up to you where you go, what you learn, and which communities and areas of the map you decide to focus on. To give a little bit of background about the game, it was created by Echodog Games, an indie company that went dormant, sadly, after the game's release. The game's director, Dyala Kattan Wright, successfully crowdfunded it in 2019, and it was ultimately co-published by Digerati and Echo Knight. It is out on Steam, Switch, and all the consoles, and it has featured in several itch bundles. So if you supported the Black Lives Matter or trans rights or Palestine fundraising game bundles on itch, you might well already own this game, so go and check it out if you're one of those people. It came out in 2020 to mild acclaim. It has a Metacritic 77 that is way too low in my opinion, but those who liked it really liked it. Edge magazine called it a game of rare thematic consistency and mechanical brilliance, and Destructoid said the interplay between mechanics and storytelling is absolutely brilliant. And the game begins with your character's mom passing away, leaving you to inherit her rundown store, which is nevertheless the heartbeat of a desert town called Bartow. This is your hometown. And in this world, the infrastructure has broken down, and so you have to stock the shelves. And in order to do that, you need to take the beaten-up van and join a convoy that circles the region. It is a dangerous drive with collapsed motorways and extreme weather, but you got to do what you got to do. You got to keep the store alive. You got to keep the convoy coming through Bartow as a relevant stop for them on their rounds, and so you set out on the road. The world is depicted as a simple overworld map, and your van rattles around from A to B. There are branching roads and choices you can make, more hazardous routes or safer routes. You can go it alone, or you can stick with the convoy and try and meet them later. Each location that you arrive at is presented as a beautiful first-person scene, lovingly drawn and vividly coloured, and you will meet a colourful cast of characters at the market stalls and streets and stores and workshops. And if you play your cards right, you can get to know them better and hopefully pick up some stuff to stock the shop. After a sojourn around the map, you arrive back home, you stock the shop's shelves, you regroup, and then you head out again. There are timers on events sometimes, like will you be able to attend your best friend's gig or be out on the road and miss it? So there's a personal story woven in here. You also meet characters repeatedly out on the road, so you can try and learn their lingo. If you fail the first time, maybe you can talk to them the second time. If you've picked up the right cards, you can get to the bottom of their whole deal, which I found to be interesting and super addictive, actually. To give one example, there is a matcha maker that we meet in a dry, dead-end desert town. She's called Mathilde, and she's a cheerful spirit. She serves tea, and she reads fortunes. And you will meet her several times on your way around the map if you choose to visit that town. She always greets you warmly. But one piece of dialogue stuck in my head. If you talk to her long enough, she starts to reveal more about herself. We were talking about a coastal town because she had told me about it. It had appeared on my map. But she also said, I swear, this town won the climate lottery. The sea will eat them first, though. It's just how it goes. You have to pick up and move wherever it's still habitable. Who knows when the groundwater will run out here? That's why I meditate. It's the only peace I get from watching the world die around me. So even though the game is colourful and friendly and approachable, there is some depth here. And as you mine into these characters, you get better and better stuff out of them, which is a real good reward. It really made me want to master the conversation system, to focus in on certain characters, learn more of their language, to be able to better converse with them. And I really like that all of the game's text is delivered in 1 or 2 line bites. That almost always contains some kind of juicy detail about the world. We learn about the tire-shredding, landslide-prone roads over the desert. We hear about towns going through groundwater shortages. We hear about refugee crises with people having to move from one place to another. We hear about the crops people grow, like green tea and grapes, chosen to fit the hot sun and floods that characterize this blasted world. And as we travel around the game, taking all of this in, it slowly becomes apparent to the player that this game is more than a colorful road trip adventure. It's also a thoughtful work of speculative climate fiction. Climate fiction, or cli-fi, is like a genre that has been emerging over the last few years, and I think a lot of it is like a reply to what's been happening in science fiction, which leans towards apocalypse, collapse, and post-apocalypse. But cli-fi and Signs of the Sojourner specifically try to offer something different. The people who are still around in this game aren't Mad Max-style marauding gothic road gangs with leather and machetes. They are organizing themselves in small communities. They are just trying to collectively scrape out a living. They grow and sell crops. They fix each other's machines. They make art and sell it. They perform music for each other. There is brewing, there is pickling, there is fermenting. There is a sense of camaraderie and solidarity and togetherness, even amongst all of the tumult and division. I actually interviewed the developer of this game, Dyala Kattan, the director rather, for Gaming in the Wild, and she had some really interesting things to say about it. I'm going to drop in a little audio clip of that interview for you now.
A large part of it, I would say, is, like you said, we're inundated with these kind of bleak future visions. And especially when thinking of these problems like climate change that feel impossible, and how are we going to manage that, what's going to happen, and while I don't have answers for that, it's I love the idea of the power of people coming together, of communities supporting each other, and being able to tackle these huge problems, and support each other through them. And so I definitely wanted to capture that in the setting overall.
So that was a really interesting conversation. I was really happy to talk to Dyala about the game. I will ask Matt to drop a link in the show notes. So if you'd like to listen to that full interview, then you can. Dyala talked about us needing to find kinder visions of what the future might look like. And that's why I think Signs of the Sojourner is such a special game. It's about accord and understanding, building consensus and seeing the world from other people's viewpoint in a world that's becoming ever more divided and challenging. And I think at this moment that we're in our real world right now, what could be more valuable and necessary than that? So that's all I have to say for you on Signs of the Sojourner. I really hope that you enjoyed the episode. Thanks again to Matt for having me on. If you'd like to hear more from me, you can check out gaminginthewild.com for links to all my stuff. You can find the podcast everywhere except Spotify, because boycott Spotify. You can search for Gaming in the Wild on YouTube to find my channel. And if you really enjoyed this chat, there is a Patreon too, with a lovely supporters community that has grown up around Gaming in the Wild. And with that, I'm heading back out on the road. Maybe I'll see you all around. So take care of yourselves and each other, and happy gaming.
Hey, you there! This is Nomad speaking. If you love retro video games and you're itching for some nostalgia, check out the Retro Wildlands podcast. In each episode, I'll use game music and sound to pull you into the gaming experience while I share my own thoughts and maybe a few memories. It's a great way to relive one of your favorite games or learn about a new one. Check out the Retro Wildlands podcast at superpodnetwork.com or wherever you listen to your podcast.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.